Hello there YouTube and welcome to the another art vlog. In this art vlog I am going to try a limited color palette. I do have a art journal, watercolor art journal, which is very beautifully crafted. It is a handmade art journal made up of Fabriano Artistico, which is my favorite watercolor paper right now. It is a cold pressed paper with a really good GSM thickness around 300, and it has very good texture. Generally I use arches, but this watercolor paper Fabriano Artistico has much lesser tooth as compared to arches, which is why I like it a bit better. So I'm going to use here three colors for a limited color study. Dioxine purple from Core. This color is very inky color because I have seen that Core watercolors have ink like texture. It flows very fast. Then I have permanent yellow orange, which is comparatively low flow color. It does not flow as much as the Core watercolors. It is from PWC, permanent yellow orange, which has a lot pop of a color, so that is why I wanted to use this color. And then I have Potter's Pink from Sminka, and I decided to use this color because in addition to the orange and purple, generally orange and purple will mix and give a muddy texture such as browns. So I wanted an intermediate pink color in between for a smoother transition of the colors, and also because I am a very big fan of granulating colors. So Potter's Pink will add a good amount of granulation, at least that is what I thought, so I decided to use Potter's Pink color. I have tasted all of these colors at a other side of a paper, with the reason that I have decided to use the sketchbook more as an okay, yeah, this is a sketchbook, so I'm not going to paint every time the perfect sketchbook, perfect artwork. But there comes a dilemma sometimes when I use both sides of the sketchbook pages. At that time, what happens if supposedly I have painted at both sides very beautiful artworks, supposedly, and in future I want to sell the artworks. I know we generally do not cut the artworks from the sketchbook, but yeah, suppose I want to sell someday any artwork which is very good, or I want to use it to frame in my house or some reason like that, there will come a dilemma that, oh, both of the sketchbook side of the pages are having a very great artwork, and right now I don't know what to do, which side to use, because I cannot use both sides to frame. So that is why recently I have been thinking of this practice that I could do as a solution, that at one side of the paper I can practice the color schemes for the artwork required at the other side of the paper. So in that way it could save that perfect opportunity for every artwork that I'm going to create. This is why I have tested the colors at the other side of the page. As we know, all of these sunsets are very, very beautiful, very pretty. But when it comes to the watercolors, I just have a feeling that I am not so used to painting these sunsets, which are so gorgeous, so amazing. But I do not have that confidence and practice of having those perfect color strokes and harmonious giving out that particular value of the colors. And I'm not so used to the subject of sunsets, so I have been kind of struggling in this artwork while I was painting the sunset. And as you can see, I have used the granulation colors also for sunset, which is not particularly a perfection, because generally I have not seen the granulation colors being that much used for the sunset. So I was struggling, I was just very much struggling. I was having a less confidence while painting a sunset. But I just kept on mixing up colors, and trying to obtain the value. You know that when the colors are going to dry, it is going to fade away, and the colors are going to fade away, it is going to look different. So we generally, if we are used to painting a particular subject with a particular colors, then we do have in our mind that, oh, this is color is going to dry this much, and after drying its value is going to decrease. So we have to put a little bit darker color over there to obtain the value we want after it gets dried up. And that was not coming inside of my mind very quickly. So I was just putting a color on the paper, it was getting dried up, and then it was getting lesser in the value, it was getting lighter in its shade. So yes, I was just putting on color on the top of the color, on top of the color, which is not generally a good idea. But I do hope that with practice I get that knowledge and intuition that this is how it is going to look like, and it gets much more simpler. Having said all of these things though, I do feel that sunsets are one of the best ways to have expressionist painting, because it has all those colors flowing from one place to the another, and it just is so dramatic in its own sense. And that being dramatic in colors, dramatic in the shapes, dramatic in the flow, it gives an artist a opportunity to get that color on the paper with those dramatic color strokes and just give it all. I don't know how to say. It just gives him very good opportunity to use a good brush. Here I used an incorrect brush in my opinion. So use a perfect brush which can hold a lot of color, and just put that color with lot of emotions, lot of expression, and lot of confidence onto the paper. Generally, when we paint a sunset, I have seen other artists painting in sunset, and I have studied how they do paint a sunset a little bit. They do give a very bold strokes, and they just start with the saturated colors, and they just go on building the saturated colors, and then start giving those shadows which are desaturated a bit, and they just go with the consistency of the colors. They start with the very light consistency, and they go on giving with that confidence that a very very creamy saturated color consistency, very creamy consistency, very bold consistency, and it does really make a lot of sense. But I'm not used to all of that, so when I start giving a very creamy consistency onto the paper. It is generally, I become very afraid because the skull painting and the all of those things start looking very muddy, very muddy, and the all values get off, all the colors get off, and then I do get scared. So yes, I guess I do have to practice more. That is the only option. Practice with all the expressions, all the expressiveness while painting the sunset. After painting the background, I started painting with the scenery. I first painted the sunset, and then I started coming forward with the mountains and all the fields and all the land that is there. And I started building one by one elements forward. At such point when a painting involves a lot of different things in that, different studies, little studies such as the sky, and then there will be a scenery, and then there will be some elements in the front which will be much more darker. There are a lot of components that are there in the painting, and when just it involves a lot of these elements, there comes a time when we need to have a patience that we will have to separate the elements, separate all of the elements, and we have to see which element after which element we are going to paint. Because usually what it happens is that all of those elements, if we start painting at one time, then it gets all mixed up. And maybe some people can do that, some people can paint all of the elements at one time, but usually with the watercolors what it happens is that it takes a little bit more time to dry a particular area. And when it takes a more time to dry a particular area, when we start painting everything together, everything, then it becomes very difficult to paint, because all of the paper, it will be wet, all over the paper it will be wet. And in watercolors there involves a different techniques such as wet in wet, and then we can paint dry elements in wet element, or the dry on dry, wet on dry. I don't know which all this involves. I do not have much technical knowledge on this, but I know that there are these different techniques involved, and we have to balance together all the techniques. We cannot go all the techniques with wet and wet everywhere. So when the paper is wet all over the area, then it becomes very difficult, because we do not have a dry surface to implement the other techniques. So it is very important to have that patience, and that is where I usually lack, because I have got very less patience. But I have been trying to work upon that, trying to have a patience, and in my mind I just tell, oh, if you are going to paint everything together, if you are going to add lot of water and not letting it get dry, not giving it an opportunity to get dry, then after the end you are going to regret that you would have wasted that time, because you would have wasted that paper and you would have wasted that time. And I'm saying this as wasted because I have painted a lot, so I can say that is why, because I'm a person who paints a lot and I'm a person with less time available with me. So rather than regretting, do wait for it and do let it dry so that you would be able to implement the techniques that you desire in a very good way. So do wait and do not regret. So do what is necessary in terms of technical elements. I know that yeah, there are a lot of artists and there are a lot of new artists, and some people practice painting for just an hobby also. And I know that painting has an different elements, such as, okay, some people can practice it as an hobby, but people like me, we I for me painting is not an hobby. For me painting is an passion. So I do need to perfect my elements, for me at least, because that is what painting has a purpose, main purpose in my life. Yeah, I know the painting will make me happy and all these things are there around that, but if I do not pay an attention to the technical elements in the painting, then it's not worthwhile for me, because I have painting. I have been practicing art as an passion also, and I do want to improve in terms of the technical elements a lot. So it is very important for me to keep that emotions aside, that oh, every artwork is perfect and such like that, and do give an attention on what is really needed logically to achieve that particular effect on the paper. So that is why it is very important for the artists which are taking art seriously. I know it is taking art seriously. It doesn't just mean that, oh, seriously means it is there is no fun involved. In seriousness also there is fun involved, because as an as those effects we are able to implement properly on the paper, that also thing gives a lot of fun, because that is a success in its own term. So it is very important to have the technical elements of the painting in consideration, and do wait to the paper to get dry and do what is really necessary for that painting to have a successful outlook. I did give all of the scenery time to get dried out, completely dried out, because in the front I wanted to paint in a very dark tonal values, some trees to give the painting an another dimension. And in original picture also, photograph also, there were some trees and people sitting on the ground. It is a view of the sunset from a mountain, so there are some trees and people watching the sunset. But I decided to exclude the people because I wanted to focus on the sunset and the scenery. So I did add a very dark value trees. So generally when we mix the colors, since this is an limited color palette study, I was able to mix the orange and purple to create a brown color. And this is what very fun about the limited color palette study. When we are just mixing the colors, mixing a little bit complementary colors in a very high saturation, very creamy consistency, then it will give colors that are very dark in the value. So that is how I was able to obtain the colors for the trees in the front. And it was a very good experience to have a limited color palette study in the sketchbook. And this was a successful practice, successful experiment to paint this particular artwork. It was very fun also because it looks very vibrant because of the color combination. It is a very good color combination. The dark violet color coming together with the orange, which is a pop of a color, and something a bit muted pink color, not vibrant because otherwise everything will get vibrant. That is also another good color combination, but a muted pink color gives it a very elegant look. So I did paint some trees and the leaves of the trees in the front, and that is how I did get my artwork very beautiful. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I do really love to create videos that gives me happiness, and especially art videos that makes me very happy. In this channel I do have more videos already and more videos that are going to come up also. So do give me a like, share and follow. It will make me very happy and it will make me more motivated to create more content. So thank you so much. See you next time.